So one of the most common questions that I get, what is my most carried knife? And in some form or fashion, the answer is pretty easy. It's a Spyderco Para 3 and is in fact my most carried knife model within the last 3 years. But it's funny because I can't make a video on the Spyderco Para 3 without somebody telling me that I am doing it wrong, that there is a better EDC knife made by Spyderco that I have been missing completely. We're going to talk about the knife that everyone says is the best EDC knife made by Spyderco. Let's go.
This is Sparta!
Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And we got a good one for you today because, man, we've got a new Spyderco on the table, and a big shout out and a thank you to me for making this happen because I bought and paid for this myself. Spyderco is still not sponsoring your boy, but that's okay because I'm more than happy to spend my own hard-earned money on this. This one came my way by way of a channel member who was willing to sell me their Spyderco Sage 5 in Rex 121. Look at that. Look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. The badging, the Rex I'm just kidding. Listen, the Rex 121 steel is absolutely phenomenal, and there have been a bajillion videos made on just how good it is. If you didn't know, it is the single most wear resistant steel currently known to mankind, and when you put it in the capable hands of Spyderco, it turns out that it will cut for forever. But that's not what this video is about. We might do a separate video in a comparison between Spyderco 15V and Spyderco's Rex 121, but today we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about which is the better EDC knife, because I truly cannot make a video on the Spyderco Para 3 in any form or fashion without somebody reminding me, oh, you know, there's a better knife out there. It's a better knife made by Spyderco, the Sage 5. Look, I cannot take it any longer. I bought the Sage 5. And when I bought this from the channel member, it had the stock configuration. And then of course I ordered some new scales because Spydercos are best when they're modified. They're a great platform for modification. There's a lot of options out there, even for models like the Sage 5. The Sage 5 utilizes the compression lock, and if you buy this in its stock format, you will of course get a wire clip and G10 handle scales that are colored based upon which knife steel you go with. You can get this in Spy 27, you can get it in S30V, I believe I've seen it in S45 VN, and of course Rex 121, which is very, very, very important. The Sage 5 is not a big knife. In fact, it lines up pretty closely with the Spyderco Para 3. The Para 3 is also not a big knife, but it's one of those small knives that performs like a big knife. When you carry a Para 3, even if you've got large bear paw style hands, you can still get a full grip on here. It's got a forward finger choil, which is great for choking up, and you can lock in right behind this hump right here so you can get some nice controlled cutting in. Pinch grip is super easy. You can place your finger on the slant of this blade and get some precise draw cuts. It's a phenomenal knife. Everyone agrees, but everyone also says that the Spyderco Sage 5 is better, and I truly wanted to find out why. Now, on this Sage 5, in case you're wondering, it has titanium Pyragrip scales from Rips Garage Tech, as well as a titanium wire clip replacement also from Rips Garage Tech. That is the extent of the modifications and changes that I have made. And I gotta say, I think it looks great. I couldn't help myself. I had to put the scales on there, and I gotta say, these scales look intense. They look really, really cool, and I like them. It feels great in the hand. There's no cheap feeling. It doesn't feel like it was made out of material that they didn't care about and they only cared about the blade steel. No, it feels like a premium knife. When I hold this knife, I can't help but wonder, is this it? Is this the one and done? Is this the knife that, you know, you put it in your pocket and then you stop being a knife collector? Because what's the point? on a knife like this with the Rex 121, it will cut for forever. It's also thin and slicey enough with this full flat grind to pass through materials extremely easily. It's big enough to give you a full grip, but also small enough not to create a real estate shortage in your pocket. I think that that's phenomenal. You pair it with something like, you know, the compression lock from Spyderco, and you've got a knife that is really, quite honestly, an excellent EDC. Ergos on here are just as good, every bit as good as they are on the Para 3. Same forward finger choil allows you to get a full 4-finger grip on a smaller knife, so you get all the same benefits out of the Para 3 that you get on the Sage 5. One of the main differences is that this one is made in Taichung, Taiwan, and the Para 3 is made in Golden, Colorado. Now, when I originally got the Sage 5 in, the first thought in my head was, why? Why? Usually the Taichung, Taiwan Spydercos are the collaborations, but this is in fact a Sal Glesser design. Sal Glesser designed both the Para 3 and the Sage 5, and I'm trying to figure out why, because these are very, very closely related, but there are some small differences. Aside from the blade shape being different on the Para 3, the handles are also a little bit different, but they're also really similar. These handle scales are the same all the way up until the butt end of those scales where we start to get into the lanyard tubes. So it means that you're going to get equally comfortable grips on both. The blade lengths are also very close as well. I would in fact say that they're almost nearly identical. And this is a leaf-shaped blade. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Schillen cutter style blade shape. Meanwhile, we've got Spyderco's, you know, beaked out blade, which is kind of a clip point, kind of a drop point, kind of a buoy, somewhere in the middle. And some people love it and some people absolutely hate it. And that's kind of where people's preference comes into play, because I do think that this blade shape is a lot more acceptable to the general public than this blade shape. It's also going to be less assuming in the pocket. When we're talking about the blade profile, this hump sticks up marginally more than it does on the Sage 5. This is a blade style and a blade shape that a lot of people love because they are so damn functional. It works really well. We've got a low angle tip that allows for really easy cutting, really controlled cuts. It's extremely slicey. Spyderco knows what they're doing. And a lot of people start out by saying, oh, Spydercos are ugly. And then they use one and they're like, wow, that is a really good knife. And then their opinion starts to change. And before you know it, they've got 25 Spyderco paramilitary 2s in every different kind of blade steel and G10 color that humankind can think of. With the Sage 5, this one is a bit more acceptable. It kind of reminds me of a Shaman and a paramilitary 2. If they were to merge together and have a beautiful baby, it would be the Spyderco Sage blade shape. Again, the leaf style blade is reminiscent of a Schillen cutter, but the Schillen cutter is a Taiwanese blade shape, historically speaking, so it kind of makes sense, especially considering that this is made in Taichung, Taiwan. However, I have noticed something. The satin finish on this blade is excellent. Spyderco in Golden does not do as good of a high polished satin as the Spyderco from Taichung, Taiwan. I don't know what it is. I don't know why their capabilities are different, but that feels really, really high quality. It's kind of the same satin finish that we find on the latest rendition of the Swish buoy. And I like it. I like it a lot, especially when we consider that we've got one of the best blade steels out there for edge retention. It's just really cool. Now, on this, another difference that I've noticed is that the blade stock is in fact thinner. Yeah, the blade stock is thinner on the Sage 5 and it's more consistent, whereas on the Para 3 it gets thicker and then it gets really, really thin towards the tip, which makes it really good for piercing and slicing actions, but it is overall thicker right here on the blade spine, and then it tapers down to a really fine slicey edge. On here, it is a thinner blade spine, and then it also gets down to a very thin slicey edge. But that kind of blade geometry does mean that this will, of course, slice better than a Para 3, especially if you decide to put your own edge on here. So what's the deal? What's the damage? Which one do I like better? Which one do I think is the better EDC knife? Well, I mean, it really depends upon what you care the most about. The Spyderco Para 3 is an exceptional EDC knife. It's one of my favorite to carry because you can customize the ever-loving crap out of it. They make reblades for this knife. It's made in the USA. You can get up to infinity and beyond different scale options from custom handle scale makers, and you can get them made all over the world. You can get custom backspacers and pocket clips, and what you can do with the Spyderco Para 3 is insane. You can, of course, modify a Spyderco Stage 5, but part of the issue is that there's just not as many options out there. However, the variety is lacking for this model, which I think is a bit sad, especially considering that everyone seems to believe this is, in fact, the better knife. If that was true, if this was the better knife, why aren't there more options out there? The second thing is that if you care about whether or not a knife is made in the USA, they do not make the Sage 5 in the USA. It's made in Taiwan, which is, a free democratic country. It's not China, but it's also not the United States. The Para 3 is fully USA made. So here's what it comes down to. The Sage 5 has a slightly more acceptable blade shape that's a little less out there. It's got better blade geometry for cutting and slicing, and the same great ergonomics that the Para 3 has. However, the Para 3 is going to have far more customizable options than the Sage 5. And so while many people tell me every single day that the Sage 5 is the better knife, we just don't have as many options for modification and customization. So if what you care about most is a slightly more acceptable aesthetic in the Sage 5 blade, and you don't care about customization quite as much, then of course the Sage 5 is going to be the answer. If you like American made knives and you like knives that can be heavily modified, then of course the Para 3 is going to be the model for you. But which is the model for me? After carrying these for the last couple days, it comes down to one quick and dirty thing, and that is going to be the fact that this has exceptionally good build quality and it's got a slicier blade geometry. I can't tell you just how enjoyable this has been to carry. This has been so much fun, and it's so hard to take out of my pocket. I've got knives that cost 3 times as much as this that I would not carry over this knife. This is one of those knives that makes me feel like I really could just hang it all up, carry this for the rest of my life, and be a happy camper. What do you think of the Spyderco Para 3 versus the Spyderco Sage 5? Would you go with the Sage 5 over the Para 3 or not? Let me know what your thoughts are, and if you want to watch some more awesome knife and EDC content, feel free to click on one of the videos that pops up next.